Greetings. Richard Nikoley here, freetheanimal.com, and this is week 1 is in the can. I'm 10 hours into week 2 for the alcohol abstention. Now, I'll put all of the previous posts I've done this week because I really needed to hold myself to account and record my thoughts, right? So probably gonna taper off with this, maybe one midweek and end of week 2 and continue tapering off, but I want to get a lot of this down, my thoughts. The setting today is Niholm Beach. Now the video I did yesterday about Trump's Mar-a-Lago raid was done up there on Prom Tip, looking down on Niholm. So those, if you watched it, well, it hasn't actually been published yet, but by the time you watch this, it should be published, right? So I've dressed up for the occasion with a collared shirt. There's a little surf behind me, but I tested it and it doesn't seem to be so bad. Not like that one I did at Nikoley Beach. And it's still early, kind of early. It's like 10:15 in the morning. So I headed out here because I figured it would be quiet. There's no wind. In fact, I'm going to be hot. This is going to be kind of rambling. I've done a lot of stuff and told you a lot of stuff, so but I'm gonna try to cover some new ground. So the background is that a bit ago, a couple weeks or so, I was like, and it had been months where I had no appetite, just no appreciable appetite. Nothing sounded good, it was drudgery to eat. And so I posted about that. I got some suggestions and so on, and after looking at everything, I said, you know what? I bet you this has a lot to do with drinking too much too often, and perhaps some exercise. I said, well, let's tackle the drinking first. So I just stopped last Saturday night. Now it's Sunday morning, and by day 3, I knew I was onto it because I started being hungry again, and by now the last couple of days I'm like I'm fully back, so completely resolved, and glad it wasn't something more serious, something I easily controlled just by eliminating something. So initially that was like to fix that problem. I thought, well, I'll go a month and see how it goes, but this has been so easy. This further background, I've done this a number of times in the States, going way back, week or 2 here or there, one time, a month, another time 2 months and everything. And then one time in Thailand when I was building the house out in the villages, I did about 6 weeks, right? But every time it was like kind of miserable. You have this feeling of missing out, and there's this initial depression, and none of that happened this time. I couldn't believe how easy it's been, right? And not only easy, right, but like joyful. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. How wonderful, right? I've been buzzing with activity since about day 2. So 5 days now where I've just been go, Energizer Bunny, I've never driven up to Patong in 18 months, except every 90 days about noon to do my 90-day report, they call it. You just go in and say, here's my address. And so that's once every 3 months. And in the last week I've gone up there twice. And I have a story about that at the end of this video, somewhat related, but it relates into what I believe is the chief reason this has been so easy. And there's, I think, a number of contributing factors. I've said before that I still do all the same things. I go to the same bars, I just don't drink alcohol. Sodas or soda water, right? Still talk to all my friends. But the other thing is that is you out there doing these videos is like my equivalent of going to a meeting, I suppose, right? I've said that before, but I think the biggest factor is I have the most rich social life that I've ever had in my life, right? And it's international. I mean, I have friends and buddies and acquaintances from all over the world. Canada, all the UK, you know, many places in Western Europe. I live between two Italians. A lot of French, so I speak French most days. I'm getting back to where I was 30 years ago when I left France. I in the condo complex I have Russian friends, right? Everybody, right? And people are people. It's really funny. Yeah, all this conflict in the world. You know, people. I have Muslim friends. You know, you know, they want to divide you. They want you to hate each other, right? Because it makes them money, gives them power and influence, right? So alcohol. It takes away filters, and it's basically a big bottle of emotion, and it works on any emotion, right? If you're happy, then with alcohol you're exuberant. If you're a bit sad, with alcohol you're miserable. You know, if you're a bit testy, then with alcohol you rise to anger quickly. If you're in a kind of argumentative and stuff role, then without the filter and the emotion of alcohol, then you're verbally abusive very easily, and so on. I don't need to run it down to you with you, but back to the social thing. I run into people every day. This morning, 7-Eleven has great coffee here in Thailand. 20 baht, which is less than $1, about 75 cents. And they have the machine, you know, the espresso machine, and I drink Americanos. That's where you make an espresso and then you add hot water to bring it to kind of the consistency of American coffee, but deep, rich flavor. So I'm going there every day now. I drink one there, sitting on the curb, and then I get another one. So that's 40 baht total, and the exchange rate is 35 baht to the dollar. So it's just over, nitnoi, a little bit over $1 for 2 coffees, and the next one goes home and I sit at my desk and enjoy the next one. I love it, right? But I'm sitting there, the first one, car drives up, window rolls down, "Hey Richard," and it's my friend Nita, who's a bar owner here. And I was just there last night drinking the club soda, and I said, "Come on, get out, let me buy you a coffee." She says, "Thank you, no, I gotta go, I have something to do." And so, but that's just every day, right? So, and when you're not plastered, and trust me, I'm actually more of a morning drinker than a nighttime drinker. At least that's been my habit since about 2011. Yeah, 11 years. What, 2011, 20? Yeah, 11 years. And so it's just the social experience. You're not missing anything. I don't know what it was about the U.S. It's just the way the culture is engineered, and you know, I live in alcohol central here. I mean, every place is an establishment that's the first question you're asked, what would you like to drink, right? Everybody drinks, right? All the time. Nita's Bar opens at 6:30 a.m. and there's a bunch of expats there to start out the day right. I've never been there that early, you know. If I drink in the morning, when I was drinking in the morning, I drink at home, right? And I'm doing all my email and stuff like that. I don't miss that. I still do everything. In fact, I do more. I mean, just a bundle of energy. I had driven up to Patong in the evening. It's a 30-minute drive over hills and curves and everything. Last week to meet an old friend from Chiang Mai that I hadn't seen in over 2 years, and sat with her for a couple hours and drinking sodas and soda water. They call it soda water here, not club soda. I've mentioned that before. And drove back. I got home at midnight and sat down and did work. Some of this is recap, but I'm kind of putting it all in one video in a more encapsulated thing. And then, what was it, a couple days ago, I drove up for a late lunch on the beach in a nice restaurant with her. And then I have a story about what happened after we parted and I headed back home. I'm going to save that to the end. Last night a weird thing happened, right? So I'm in this one bar I go to, stumble in, I'm talking with Nancy, the owner, who's been married to an English guy for 17 years, sweet as can be, love her to death. So I'm sipping on my club soda, talking with him, and this guy comes in, and I notice, you know, he sits down with this girl that I used to know pretty well for 6 weeks or so, and kind of on the outs. No fault of mine, zero fault of mine. This crazy Thai chick shit, and I mean, unbelievable. So when they open their mouths, they lie, especially the ones who work in bars. So anyway, I'd never seen him before. I took note of him, and he was sipping on a beer. And so then I left. I head down to another place for another soda water, Ollie Bar. And what happens, but 3 minutes later, this same guy shows up, right? I go over to him, I say, "Are you following me?" Right? He said, "Weren't you just in Stumbling?" He says, like, "Yeah." So introduce himself. He's a Canadian from Vancouver. Name is Graham, and he invites me to sit with him. He's sitting there now. He's into the whiskey, and this is illustrative of how bad it can get. And I used to be somewhat the same way, right? So and he has 3 girls there. He buys them all drinks, and I'm just sitting there with my soda water. And as he drinks, he's getting more talkative, more animated, more you can't get a word in edgewise. He's telling me stories, and some of them are like bizarre, weird, you know, like I mean, but the one that takes the cake is he has a Canadian wife, and she's here, living here. And he has a Thai girlfriend on the side that she knows about, right? But sort of okay with her as long as he keeps it outside the house. But she was gone on some business trip or something for a while, and she comes back and finds stuff. You know, you can imagine the stuff, right? And she's like, "She was sleeping in my bed here, and blah, 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 blah." You know, you keep it outside the house, that kind of stuff, right? Now, to each his own. That's their. But obviously, from what she was saying is, you know, that's too far, right? Have your girlfriend on the side, but keep it out of the house, kind of thing. That's what she's saying, right? So the conversation goes on. He tells more stories and da 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 da. And he even said, like, a few nights back, he'd said something, and some guys punched him in the bar, right? Yeah. And after that, I said, well, I got punched. So I tell him the story about how I got cold cocked, you know, by the two 20-something Australian boxers, Muay Thai boxing guys. You know, with sitting on the bike with my hands on the bar, me 61 years old, two 20-somethings, right? Totally out of the blue, knocked me out cold in the second punch. But there was CCTV footage, and cops got him, and they had to pay me $3,000 bucks. Right? That's the story. So immediately, without knowing anything, he says, "Did you learn a lesson from that?" Like challenging me. Lesson? What lesson? No, right? Then you're not a nice person. I said, all right, I'm out of here. Good, go. Right? Before, you know, 15 minutes before, nicest guy. Alcohol. Right? No doubt in my mind. Especially after he tells me a story of how he keeps a girlfriend on the side with his wife and then brings her into the house when she's gone. Amazing, right? So I go home and whatnot. So let me talk about I'm energy. I'm doing these videos. I'm going out in the day. Yesterday I went swimming in my pool in the complex, and later in the afternoon I'm like, you know what? I need another swim. So I jumped on the motorbike and went down to a place called Shark Bites, which has the greatest pool in all of Phuket, I think. So it has like diving, you know, jumping or diving platforms, and it has a climbing wall, and it's like 15 feet deep on the one end because they do introductory diving lessons there. All this stuff. Sorry, I got some kind of itchy thing on my hand, or stinging thing. Anyway, so I went down there for that, stayed a couple hours, went out, and I hit one place, Asia Bar, Club Soda, and talked with Pac. Talked to Pac and bought her a drink. So I'm out for like 180 baht, right? $5, and 450, something like that. Then I go from there down to Flipside, where they have great fresh brewed iced tea, 40 baht, which is exchange is 35 baht a dollar, so just Nikoley over $1. And sit there and have an iced tea. Then I go up to Vibes, owned by an American, I think Midwestern guy named James, and I have an Americano, a coffee. Then I go from there up to Nita's place, the girl I met that drove up to me this morning, and had a club soda. No, I think I had a Coca-Cola in a bottle, and probably 5 guys sitting at the bar, and I know 3 of them real well. Big Mike, we call him. He's a New Zealander, but he's got to be, I think he's like 6'6" or something like that. Big guy, tall guy, but lean. And then Dave Roberts, who's an international architect who lives here in Phuket, right? Owned like the biggest international, started and owned and ran, he's not involved anymore, the biggest international architectural firm in the world at one point. I run into him all the time, almost every couple of days, because he frequents the same place as I do, only he's drinking alcohol. We had a good chat about it though, right? And he's quite familiar because he's quite a drinker himself. So he's been down this road and stuff like that before and done periods of abstention and so on. So we had a good chat about that. Then I go from there to Stumblein, where I said previously I talked with Nancy over Club Soda, and that's why I noticed that guy, the Canadian guy, right? And then Oliver, and I've already told you that story. Then from there I go to Gilby's. It's one of these big spaces, pool tables, different bars, and I talk with Manow, very, very cute girlfriend, or not girlfriend, very, very cute girl, just kind of a buddy friend, and lazy as all fuck. You know, she's too cute to lift a finger to do everything. She has a fiance in New York that supposedly is coming out in 2 months, and they're supposed to get married in 7 months. But she lives with an Austrian guy. The stories here just insanely crazy, right? But I talk to her, play pool sometime. And plus there's Sabah, which is another girl there. She has a what is he? I think he's an Israeli guy. Really, really, really nice guy. Haven't seen him in a while in the bar though. And anyway, so I go there. And then from there I go to Laguna, which is kind of the more classy, high-end, and they have 2 late-night places that don't open even till midnight, right? But I go there, and there's a chick I like, actually from a place called Pecan, which is 15 kilometers from where I built the house in Sisaket. She's tall and just beautiful, but she plays pool like crazy. Like out of 4 games or so, I beat her 1 time. And she can make them long across the table shots. Where it's like 1 in 5 for me. And then I went home. I did some work and watched a Netflix movie, this new one with Jamie Foxx where he's a vampire hunter. It's hilarious, man. If you're into that sort of thing, it's just great. Jamie Foxx is always a good watch, right? One of those guys. And and that was the evening, and that was like capping off week number 1. I'm loving it, right? I would never want to go back. Talked to a guy, who was it? Oh yeah, an Aussie expat friend of mine. He doesn't live in this area. He lives in a different area in Thailand. But he's actually a long-time blog reader. Right? But he told me some time back he went a year. Right? I'm like, wow, shit. I hope I never do that. Right? I'm just loving it too much. It's weird. You know how when you're at another thing here. You know how if you've been drinking, sometimes you like don't remember shit from or like even like say you're inebriated when you watch a movie, right? Well, that's the one time you can watch a movie again because you've probably forgotten 3/4 of it, right? But you just even facts on the ground. Like I had this. I was having the video cut off, so I'll have to splice this. So I was saying about not remembering things. I had this dispute with this girl at Stumblein. It was really great, right? I still to this day have no idea what set her off, right? But yes, Thailand is kind of a grudge-holding place, right? Like even out in the villages. The girlfriend lives between 2 uncles, right? While I was there in 5 months, she had disputes with both of them over stuff that a person like me would get over in a couple of days. Well, last months, they don't talk to each other for months, right? I just don't get that, right? So anyway, now they're all fine again. But it takes a while, right? Anyway, but now it's really weird. In the last few days, I've started to get memory recall, right? And I'm like integrating. And that's where I realized that with this girl, I did zero wrong. 100% of it was on her. But here's what Thai girls do: they do stupid shit, silly shit, stupid shit, silly shit until you get angry. Once you get angry and you say bad things to them, right, you automatically become the bad guy. Now you're the bad guy. It has nothing to do with whatever she did before. You're the bad guy. That's how it operates here. You got to be aware of it, right? When you're aware of stuff, it's no big deal. So then you just roll with the flow. You say, I know the scam. I've been through it before. All right. So let's tell the story from a couple days ago. So I moved to Phuket January 2021. January 1st, actually, 2021. And I was there for 4 months. Well, during that time, there's a guy, he's a Swiss guy, and he had a friend visiting from Switzerland. So 2 of them. And they're both into ladyboys, right? So at any one time in their unit next door to me, they've got 3, 4, 5 ladyboys living there, right? You know what? They're people, right? So, I got to know some of them pretty well and, sit around, drink, smoke. I had a barbecue, so, and they were welcome to use it any time, but I always got food, right? And, and then the guy had to go back to, the visiting one had to go back to work, and then the one that was there had to go back to Switzerland for some medical stuff, right? I hadn't heard from him since. And so when I got up to Patong for lunch the other day, and we parked, Patong has got to be at least 20,000 people. It's big now. When I first went there in '88 and then in '99, it was dirt roads, right? Dirt roads and beer bars. Amazing now. It's an assault on the senses. But 30 years passed by pretty quick. Anyway, so I'm heading out of town on the main thoroughfare, right? And this motorbike pulls up next to me. Hey! I look over, I go, Rudy! And he has his dog. It's one of these moped style scooters. He has his dog standing on the back. He's been trained. The dog's only 18 months old. But he's been trained since it's a puppy. So he stands on the back of the motorbike. Right? Rudy takes him down to the beach every day where he gets his exercise. There's no such thing as leash laws in Thailand. No such thing. Anywhere. Right? And there's also no such thing as no dogs. Right? Can get annoying though. So anyway, we go down to the beach and sip on some coconuts, the green coconuts. God, they're awesome. And hour or so while the dog runs around, we catch up, and so on, and then get on the bikes, and he takes me to show me where he's lived for the last 10 years. Now the reason I met him there is like every year he'll rent a room down there for like 3 or 4 months. It's kind of it gets really nice little quaint resort, and he knows that the owner is Swiss as well, and so he's been doing that for years. It goes back and forth sometimes, as do the lady boys, because they work up in they work doing their thing up in Patong. But isn't that weird, man? Running into that. I run into people every damn day if I go out. to not run into people would mean I'd have to stay home. So this is, to sum this up, this is the rich social life I lead, and which has made the alcohol, it's the most important thing, I'm convinced, it's made the alcohol thing a joy. Because you still have all your friends, but you interact with them better. It enhances your relationship. Because if you drink, and sure enough, one of these days you're going to have an altercation, and that's going to be a pain in the ass for as long as that lasts, or it could end the friendship. And I've had that happen. You can hear it, right? And this is so much better, right? So there's my message at the end of week number 1. And there's no way I'm quitting this. No way I'm stopping this. This is great. I feel like I'm born again. All right. Thanks for listening. Cup and cup. Thank you.